Right, part 3. So what is the point of Parliament if it costs you a phenomenal amount of money to get elected? Now for me, £2,500 is literally a year's income. It's certainly what I spend on food, gas, electric and telephone, most certainly. And of course the more the gas costs, the less I eat, the more I starve, the skinnier I get, and the less likely I am to survive to the grand old age of 195, as I'd quite like me and my grandchildren to be able to do. Well, there's a thought. If we lived forever, why would we need kids? That's an aside, but if you're a Tory party candidate, then 55 million quid is fuck all. If you even a Lib Dem on 2.5 million quid is still quite a phenomenal amount of money. But it means nothing if you can't get on the telly. And we used alternate media like Facebook, and I was really tempted to do a Twitter account, but I thought fuck it. And of course a YouTube account, where I think I've got 3,700 page views or something, unique views, something like that. Now next year is going to be another opportunity for people like me and you to vote for someone sensible, for someone who's not part of the Lib Lab con, someone who's not tainted by the Rothschilds, not in the pay of Her Majesty the Queen, who I'm more and more convinced is the Messiah, is the King of Kings. Because one of her ancestors apparently was Caesarion, who was the son of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. And Julius Caesar declared him King of Kings, which ended up in the Bible, which probably explains why Her Majesty the Queen is so untouchable and so isolated from the problems of the world. It's not because she's a doddering old granny. I mean, 50 years ago she was in the prime of her life. But it's because they've conspired to protect her, being the Messiah. Wouldn't you want your government to protect you from people like me, who would much rather prefer a republic like in America and Venezuela than we have at the moment, where we're toyed between Church of England and the Vatican, if there is in fact any difference these days? Because some of the evidence that I've seen suggests that there's no difference whatsoever, except in the content of the prayers and the Bible and stuff. And I mean, everybody quotes from the King James Bible, and yet King James was the Messiah of the time, and he commanded his troops to rewrite the Bible to fit his image. He didn't, you know. He wanted it in English. He thought the time was right. Let's give it to the people, and let's see what the Bible says in English. And the consequences, it's now translated into 250 bloody languages. Anyway, I digress. But what is the point of parliamentary elections if you can't afford to get elected? And there's no mechanism in place to enable people like me, who have no money, to stand for election. And that means it's now 6 o'clock. And that's a Jesuit church, by the way, who are the modern descendants of the Knights Templar, allegedly. The missionary arm of the Vatican, who quite happily torture and imprison and incarcerate kids in really terrible circumstances, as the Church of New England have recently found out. So there's the thought to leave you with, is if you need 55 million quid to stand for election and you haven't got 55 million quid, what's the point? The point is that you have an advocate in Parliament who's been unemployed, has been homeless, who has had their van stolen, who has just been robbed by another £1,900 this year, and who really have a callous disregard for the poverty they've created. I mean, do you remember the Ethiopian starvation, famine of 1984, where thousands of people died because the World Food Programme broke down and refused to give them any bloody food? Because Idi Amin had declared war on somebody, and they'd rather buy guns and ammunition than feed a nation of poor people. And then now look, the Ethiopians are the best long distance runners in the world, because that was the only way they can get from village to village to pass on the good news that a baby had been born or something. And they just genetically engineered themselves to run faster, longer, and high altitude than anyone else. And there they were 25 years ago, starving to death. It's a mad, mutually assured, destructive world out there. And I think the more of us that get elected, like people like Ron Paul in America and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, don't believe the mainstream media about Chavez. He's a people's president. He's not a fascist dictator like Obama. Oh, and Obama means, by any means available. That is the abbreviation of President Obama's last name. Oh, by any means available. And I guarantee it, someone like Cheney or Bernanke have said that to the president himself, I bet you, and to his minions and so on. By any means available. Whether it's starvation in Ethiopia, house bubbles in North Carolina, or Greece declaring itself bankrupt, and things like that. But there you go. So, shall I or shall I not? And we're getting half a dozen of those bloody sirens every single fucking day. And they're ambulances mostly. At least they switched theirs off this time when the road was clear. Most of the time they go bombing off down the road, screaming their sirens off and waking us up at 2 o'clock in the bloody morning. Oh. So there's the thought. Do I beg you for some money so that we can have a fair crack at getting elected? Or do I do what I did last time and concentrate on Facebook and YouTube and hope you guys can spread the word on my behalf? Or do we just sit down, stick our heads between our knees and kiss our asses goodbye? Because I guess that would be the best choice for the Rothschilds and Her Majesty the Queen. Oh, why won't these dirty unwashed peasants just leave us alone? It's because you're a fascist dictator, you dozy cunt! If people like Monsanto and Bayer and Baxter Chemicals weren't trying to kill us, and people like BP were trying to destroy the world through the Gulf of Mexico oil crisis, and they weren't trying to pollute the area with really evil bloody oil dispersants and just used a bit of common sense, maybe we wouldn't be in this bloody mess. Here's proof that I pay my taxes. bog standard rolling tobacco. £2.90 this cost. Just to give me some peace. Then I find out that they've contaminated our bloody milk with antibiotics, which might explain why I have stomach aches so frequently. Anyway, my name is Stephen J. Humphrey, independent council for next year's council elections. What would you call it? Independent council, local government candidate. There you go. Hi, my name is Stephen J. Humphrey, local government. I'll work on it, but don't have nightmares, and let me know if I should beg you for money so I can have a decent campaign and a decent fight with the TV companies next year when I kick off about the lack of progress, etc., etc. Ciao.